Hey y'all, it's Dustin. So there's been some scenery change. I don't know if you could tell in the background. I have my Lana Del Rey vinyls hanging, and I moved my altar over here back by my dresser. It used to be over that way by my fridge, but I put it over here. You can see the little candles lit and stuff. I just got back from a boy's house though. I was at a boy's last night. So please excuse the marks on my neck. Yeah, so basically I just wanted to talk to you guys today. I haven't made a video in a few weeks, so I wanted to, I poured myself a little glass of wine. If you have some wine, go pour yourself some and we can drink and chit chat together. But I wanted today to do another video and talk to you guys. I have my notes typed up again because, like I said in the last video, messy bitch, I can't remember things. So this video, I wanted to talk about my matron goddess and how like all that entails and all that fun stuff, and just tell you a little bit about it. So basically, to start off, what is a matron goddess? Okay, basically paganism, Wicca, witchcraft, they're all traditionally polytheistic practices. So those that practice will sometimes have a either patron or matron god or goddess that they work with, worship, devote themselves to, that type of stuff. And the great thing about it is that it's completely open to personal interpretation, like how you practice with a patron or a matron. Some people work with one of each. They'll have a patron god and a matron goddess. Some people like the duality that comes with it. That's a very Wiccan way of doing it. Having a masculine deity that you work with and a feminine deity that you work with. And then other people will have multiple matrons or multiple patrons or multiple of both that they work with. Some people believe that you can have matrons and patrons from separate pantheons, which a pantheon is basically like a group of gods, like the Greek pantheon, and then there's like the Norse pantheon and all kinds of stuff. But some people believe that you can pick and choose from separate pantheons, and other people think that's totally wrong and you have to choose from the same pantheon. Personally, I don't really give a shit. You do what makes you happy, you know? Everyone is free to do what they wish. It's their own practice. It should be what feels right for them. Me, I personally, right now, only have a matron. It's cute. I love it. We've built up a great relationship in a short amount of time. Mind you, having my matron, I don't believe in the physical appearance of gods and goddesses. I believe, I don't believe that they exist in that way. To me personally, I believe in gods and goddesses as a personification of nature. So when I'm praying to my matron, who is Artemis, as I'm sure you can tell by the title of the video, I'm praying to the things that she represents. I'm just calling my matron Artemis is my way of giving the nature that I pray to a name. So that's how it is for me. So keeping that in mind, let's get on with the questions. I kind of made this like a little tag, kinda. So if y'all want to do it, I might make it a tag. We'll see. First question. I'll put the questions down in the description box if you want to do it. First question: who is your matron goddess? As I just said, my matron is Artemis. I love her. She's helped your boy out quite a bit in the few weeks that has it been over a month? It's been a good while since I started working with her. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Next question is to tell me a bit about your matron goddess. Artemis is basically the goddess of wildness, the wilderness, independence, nature, survival, adaptation, change. She's the goddess of archery and wild things. She's very fierce. And while she's like all of those things, she's also very gentle to those that are under her charge, those she cares for. She's very gentle to them and very sweet. She's the goddess of childbirth and virginity. She's a maiden goddess. Artemis protects women and children and all those who exhibit like exceptional self-sufficiency and independence or like defy cultural gender norms. So I personally believe that she's very, very protective of people who aren't cisgender. I believe she's very protective of people who aren't straight. I believe she's very protective of women and of children and those who are in need of help. She's very caring. It's beautiful. She's also she's the goddess of transitions. So she blesses people with the ability to transform and evolve, which I really love as a gay man, just because I had to transform I've had to transform and evolve like so many times throughout my life. And she's also known as being a bringer of light, like when the moon rises. Like imagine the full moon coming up and it's just this pretty glow. Being the bringer of light, she just blesses us with like illumination in our lives, and not just in the physical sense, in like a self-learning sense. She helps you learn about yourself. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful relationship. I love working with her. I love her. The next question is, how did you find your matron goddess? Okay, and this is a whole ass story, you guys. I need a sip of my wine. It's a whole ass story. So, growing up, I always had an affinity for the moon and archery. I still do. I used to like run around my mom's yard with a bow and some arrows, shooting shit. And I've always loved the moon and like the stars, and I also really always felt super connected. Like I always loved Greek mythology. I was obsessed with it as a kid. They just have always called to me. And I've also always like adored nature. Like I had like horrible allergies as a kid, so like I would go outside wanting to play around in the woods around our house and the pond, and I could for a little bit until my allergies kicked in, but I've always loved nature. You know, I would walk through the trees. We had this little canopy in our woods that like the trees just happened to grow beautifully together to make this big canopy of trees. And I would like play in the creek that flowed out of our pond and hop down the rocks, and I just have always loved nature. It's beautiful. But like the main symbol of hers that I connected to growing up was the deer. The animal deer. And I swear, okay, I didn't really decide upon calling her my matron until recently, but I swear to you, she's been calling to me my entire life. Like deer have always been a strong symbol for my family. Like they used to jump out in front of our cars all the time. They would like be in our yard, like whole herds of deer. And back then, before I found paganism, I always knew that like deer were special and meant something to me, but like I never understood why. And for those of you that don't know, deer is like Artemis's sacred animal. But like I would even go so far to say like I kept deer at a distance for most of my life because they freaked me out. Like because whenever we would see them, they'd be like jumping out in front of our car. Like I made a point to not let me or anyone, whenever I was driving somewhere, no one was allowed to say the word deer in my car. I wouldn't say it because I shit you not, every time someone said the word, one would jump out. At least one would jump out in front of the car. And we would have to like slam on our brakes so we wouldn't hit it. Like it was just always intense. So I literally did not let people say that word in my car. Ever. Ever. Because it freaked me out. I was like, they just pop out every time. But like now, like even though it freaked me out then, now I know it was like, it was a sign. It was Artemis calling to me. Yeah, so it's a very special animal for me now. So like every time a deer would jump out in front of my car, every time we would see it in our yard, it was Artemis. But like, okay, this was like a month ago when I ended up deciding, a little over a month ago when I ended up deciding to take her as my matron or devote myself to her. I started having suspicions regarding my matron, and so I began researching, and the more I thought about it, the more I like began to realize that Artemis was like the most obvious answer. So one of those nights back then, before I went to sleep, I like laid down and I called to her asking for her to give me a sign because I needed to know that my suspicions were correct. So I woke up the next day and I was like constantly receiving signs from her. It was insane. Like I was talking to this boy at the time, and her name kept appearing at random times, like just when I was on my laptop. And then I was talking to this boy at the time, and he brought up the constellation Orion, which was just weird because that was Artemis's only romantic love interest, like one of the only people she ever truly loved. And that's just weird that he would randomly bring that up. Like it was weird to me. So I like, even seeing all that, I still had my suspicions. I was like, am I crazy? Am I just losing it? Is that what it is? Am I going a little kooky? But later that night, I received like the final sign that I needed. It was like a slap in the face. I received a tarot reading. And the cards that were being used were the Goddess Oracle deck. So the person that was reading me laid down 3 cards face down, and then after telling me like exactly how the reading was gonna go, she like proceeded. And the first card that came up from the Goddess Oracle deck was the Goddess Artemis. And as soon as it happened, I like froze and just was like, oh my God, and started laughing because I was like, she's just toying with me now. She's like, you dumbass. I'm like, this is me, like, hello. And so I was like, okay, cool. And in that moment, I decided to roll with it. So I like that night, I dedicated myself to her and left her an offering of wine, some of this, my white Zin. It's my favorite, so I thought she would like it. The other two goddesses that popped up in that reading were Anya, who is I think she's Norse or Irish, one of the two, a goddess, and then Aphrodite also popped up, which is weird because I've also always felt connected to Aphrodite. She was always one of my favorite Greek goddesses. But yeah, after all that, I knew Artemis was my matron, and we've been working together ever since, and it's been absolutely lovely. It's a beautiful relationship. The next question is, how do you interact with your matron goddess? Okay, there's so many ways to interact with Artemis specifically. Other people do different things for whoever their matron or patron is, but Artemis and I, we have there's so many ways you can interact with her. Leaving offerings is probably the most popular way to interact with a matron or patron. Artemis, I've noticed, really enjoys things that come from nature, which makes sense. Obviously, she's the goddess of the wilderness. So I like to leave her, when I leave her food, I like it to be natural foods, I don't know, fruits and honey and natural things, natural organic foods. Usually I leave her libations, like drinks, and normally it's wine. Another way to interact with their matron god or goddess is through votives. So Artemis, like I said, really loves things from nature. So you could leave if I wanted to leave something on my altar for her, I could leave some fruit or symbolic votives, plants, or even she even really loves she's a goddess of lots of animals. So if you ever found animal parts outside, come by them naturally though. Don't actually hurt animals and take them. That's so immoral. But if you find them, let's say you find a feather outside, clean it, let it sit on your altar as an offering to her. Stuff like that. You could also do put imagery of your god or goddess on your altar. You could get a statue or print off pictures from the internet. I like statues. I plan on getting one for mine. I haven't yet. Your boy's kind of broke. I also, the one main thing that I did votive wise, I made a safflower myrrh oil, which is made for they have safflower and myrrh are correspondence-wise heavy on the protection side of things, and Artemis is like that. She's very protective of people, so I dedicated it to her, asked her to bless it, and now I use it all the time for spell work. So that's a votive that I made in honor of her. Stuff like that. And then there's so many ways that you can interact with her just in daily life. Philanthropy is a great way to interact with Artemis because she's all about helping people that are in need, charity work. Just do that, help people, especially women and children. She totally appreciates that. It's an amazing way to say thank you if she's ever helped you out, or if you just want to be hi. Charity is a great way. And she has Artemis has so many correspondences as well. So the deer is her main sacred animal, and I've always connected with deer. The color most associated with her is saffron, which is that orangey yellow color, if you can think of it in your head. That's a very protective color. What else? She's also associated with greens and blood-like colors, red, natural looking things. So that kind of stuff. Yeah, she's pretty great. I love her. And the last question is, are there any other gods or goddesses that you work with? And right now, not really. I was thinking about maybe Aphrodite and Anya because they came up in that same tarot reading as Artemis. More so Aphrodite though, I think. I've just always felt connected to her. And she's very much so about self-love, which I really love just as a concept. When it comes to gods though, a patron, I have never felt connected to any of them, which is, I guess it seems weird, but it makes sense. I think because Artemis is a maiden goddess, she's a virgin, I think it would make sense that I wouldn't really connect to any male deities if I connect so much with her. So yeah, it makes sense to me. But yeah, that's all the questions. It was just a cute little thing. I just typed it up one day and I was like, let's answer these, let people know a little bit about my practice. So yeah, clink clink, I barely drank my wine. I like this cute little setup though. My altar looks nice and pretty in the back, and Lana's hanging up above it, and it's cute. It's cute. But yeah, I will put those questions in the description below, and if you guys would like to answer them yourself for your own channels, feel free. Yeah, I love you guys so much, and I'm gonna try and make another video here soon. It's my birthday this week on the 8th, so I'm gonna go to my favorite metaphysical shop and buy some things, and maybe if I get enough stuff, just to like treat myself for my birthday, you know, if I get enough stuff, I might do a birthday haul video and show you guys the stuff that I got. So yeah, I love you guys very much, and I will see you soon. Okay.